what else have I been playing? Well, I have been playing some Skate 2 recently. I'll try to be a bit more eloquent when I'm talking about this than I was talking about Left 4 Dead. I've just been trying to mop up the last few achievements in that of the main story mode. And so far I've been enjoying it. I've got a list of various good and bad points about that I think I'll run through. Skate 2, what's it about? It's mainly a skate simulator, rather than what Tony Hawk's is, which is more of a skateboarding game where you can perform amazing, death-defying moves across gigantic gaps and perform amazing tricks that would be impossible to perform in real life, whereas Skate 2 is more about doing tricks that you could actually do, that when you see skate videos, you could replicate that, and that's one of the features of Skate, the skate reel, where you can take footage of what you've been playing. You can take about 30 seconds to about a minute of what you've just done in the game, and then edit that into your own skate video to try and show off to your mates and other people in the community how good you are at this game, because it does reward practice, and it's not like Tony Hawk's where you can just button bash and eventually your skater will get better. It's more about how you get better with using the controls. There's a lot of objectives in the game that you come across that are really quite difficult. I found them frustrating, and it takes you a while to learn how you can manipulate the controls to your advantage, because you're just thrown in with a lot of tricks. From the get-go, you've got every single trick you can do. Whereas in Tony Hawk's, you have to unlock them as you go along. Skate 2 just gives you everything, and then just gives you free reign to run around the city and do whatever the hell you like with the controls. And that possibly does fault it a little bit. That in this version, I understand that they've added a few more tricks to the flick it controls, which is the right stick, where you move the right stick in various combinations of up, down, down to the right, down to the left, scrape it around the bottom to do various tricks. But there's various things where you have to go from halfway up, slide that down, and then flick it up to the right, which is just very difficult. I found I was doing tricks that I didn't want to do, and there's various other variations that you can tweak that. If the basic tricks of heel flip and kick flip and pop shove, it's alright, but if you try to do something a bit more difficult, it's very hard to get those tricks right every single time. But
does that make the game any worse to play? Sorry, does that make? I mean, presumably, for beginners, I imagine that's quite difficult. You can't sort of pick up and play in the same way you could Tony Hawk's.
I'd say I hadn't played much of the original Skate. I'd only played it a couple of times, and I hadn't really got used to it then. But I'd say, given a decent sit down with the game, you do get used to it. You don't need to do all those various complicated variations of tricks. You can just get along fine with tricks that, like just doing a kickflip or a nollie or an ollie. I'd say its best moments are when you're just skating around enjoying the controls that you've been given, and not having to complete specific objectives and do specific tricks that you can't quite do, that take you a number of tries to do. It's just good fun to skate around, and because there's just a huge city open to you, that it's good fun to throw yourself off of ramps and see a set of rails or stairs and think, well, if I go from here down to there, I can kick flip onto there, I can flip round, I can grab onto there, I can grind down that, and you can just spend hours trying to get one line right, because it's just fun skating.
Did you play the original one?
No, only a couple of times in multiplayer.
Alright, I was wondering if I mean, in the second one, is there enough of a tutorial such? Because
yes.
In the original one, they were so precise with going, this is how you do these moves, because it's a brand new concept.
there's a build-up where you're trying to get to this person's skate park, where it's just essentially you skate along, and a bloke says, "Oh, do this," and then you do it. "Oh, ollie over that. Okay, if you press that button, you can grab." And that's basically introducing you to the new features they've got in, but it's very easy to get used to very quickly.
Cool.
Yeah. There we go.
Would you say it's better than Tony Hawk's? If you had to pick one, if they were both, I don't know what prices are, but if you had to pick one, what would you spend your money on?
I do love the Tony Hawk's games. I think they're fantastic fun, but I think at the moment where Tony Hawk's has gone, it seems a bit outdated in its ideas. That I think Skate's doing something which is a lot more interesting and a lot more enjoyable, because even though it can be hard in points, it's when you get the controls right and it finally clicks, because you can have good days and bad days, and when you're having a good day and you just do tricks and you do amazing lines and you can spend ages and ages on an objective and not get it right, but when you finally do get it right, it's such a fantastic feeling that you think, I did that, that was all me. Nothing, it wasn't help from, because I didn't, it's not I did that for so long that my skater got better, it's because you did it for so long, you got better. It's a...
So you feel the rewards are worth the frustration at
yes,
some points of the game?
It's much more fun. If you can't do something the first time, it's best just to leave it for a while and just enjoy the game that you've been given.
Right, cool.
Cool. Well, the Tony Hawk's guys are having to bring it this time. Anyway, they've got a new one coming out later this year, I believe.
I'd say I prefer the older ones. Tony Hawk's 4 was pretty much the last one that I thought, yeah, that's amazing, that is.
Yeah, they've got to make some major changes, otherwise people are going to really get bored of it.
Yeah, I tried some of the Tony Hawk's slow-mo controls where you could move individual feet, but that just seemed... It took the pace out of the game, where you would slow right down and you'd flip the board, and you'd have to remember to move the other foot out the way, otherwise it would knock it, and then you'd fall over. And that was just annoying, whereas Skate's flick-it controllers, it's less interactive, but more intuitive, I'd say.
Anthony, sorry, I think that's interesting. Quite interesting what you were saying. Like, designers need to make major changes to the games. We're finding a lot of games these days are becoming not ultra realistic, but certainly far more realistic than we've anticipated or experienced rather in the past. Is this a trend that you see continuing? That was real journalism. Come on, answer that question.
Yeah, that was very good. That was very. With some things, maybe. I mean, the sports games, you're always going to have the likes of FIFAs and the Maddens and such, going for animation, going for movement, going for graphics. Graphics mainly is the main thing that sells these games, because you can advertise them, you can show videos and stuff and trailers. So I imagine so, but I do think in terms of realism, we are very close to this generation anyway. Very close to a point where I don't know where you can start improving things. You can probably make little subtle things, but I reckon with Tony Hawk's, for example, if they start going after the realistic route, I think they'll come undone. I think they do need to keep with the stupid, over the topness. They just need to inject some freshness into it. And they have said that the new game coming out, there's going to be a peripheral that you'll get with it. They haven't said what it is.
Dear, oh dear, that's
some kind of Wii Fit board, I expect.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's all very well and good games going after the ultra realistic route, but it's always good fun to go back to games that are complete and utter fantasy.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
There's always going to be that market, and there's always going to be a market for ultra realistic, and you've got to have that balance of games. You can't always go for, I want a game that's completely and utterly real. I don't want a simulation all of the time. I want something that's got that's a little bit ridiculous.
A little bit farcical, yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. I think there's starting to be a backlash as well with things like GTA 4. But,
with Skate 2 as well, there's the ridiculous element in that is the Hall of Meat, where it's essentially the feature where you have to try and break your skater just as much as you can by throwing him off buildings, him or her, and just breaking as many bones as you can, and doing certain things like breaking your groin on an object, and just trying to break 19 bones in one fall, and that's good. It takes it out of the ultra realistic nature of the game.
Cool.
Cool.
That's pretty much all I've got to say on that, I think.